Until his head pops out.
Okay, good morning, everyone. As organized as I usually am. Darylyn, I lost my agenda. In all of these paperwork.
Yeah. Paper everywhere.
Paper everywhere, yeah. All except for the guy that's running the show.
No, he's in Ottawa.
Good morning, everyone. Call the meeting to order.
Long time.
The agenda, any additions or deletions?
Yes.
Mr. Hawk.
In closed session, I'd just like to talk briefly about the regional landfill, give everybody an update. I mean, my partner Lloyd will.
12.4.
Yes,
Regional
Mr. Chairman,
landfill.
yep. Yep.
You're moving it with the addition, Shane?
You betcha.
Any questions or comments on it? Not seeing any? Vote.
Oh, weird.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Got to vote by hand today, guys. Sorry about that.
Sorry, guys, vote by hand.
Get into habit of just...
Forgot to mention that, sorry.
Yeah. Somebody doesn't want to step out of her comfort zone and run the computer today, so.
I'd like to make a motion that she must.
Okay, that's carried. All right, I will open the public hearing. Bylaw 2022-22. Becky, to present.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So bylaw 2022/22 land use amendment. Global Ramax Surveys has submitted application 22/A11 on behalf of Martin and Elizabeth Peters to reclassify a 3.2 hectare or 7.8 acre parcel from Agricultural District 2 to Country Residential District 2. The existing title is 32.2 hectares or 79.74 acres in size. The property is located within the southeast 1911-7 west of the 4th. If the land use amendment is approved, then the applicant's intent is to apply to the Municipal Planning Commission for subdivision approval to create a separate title for the yard site. The property is located along Range Road 75, approximately 4.8 kilometers north of Highway 3. The proposed reclassification area currently gains access from Range Road 75. The proposed reclassification area contains an established residence and yard, while the remainder of the title contains an irrigation pivot. There is an existing yard site situated to the north of the proposed reclassification area that was previously subdivided in 1963. The proposed subdivision would create the fourth title in the quarter section, and there are no oil or gas wells in proximity to the proposed reclassification area. The proposed parcel is located outside of the Tri-Area Intermunicipal Development Plan, and the land use amendment application as proposed complies with Section 4.1.23 of the Municipal Development Plan. The South Saskatchewan Regional Plan states that municipalities are to identify their agricultural land and to limit fragmentation and conversion to non-agricultural uses. Under the implementation section of the plan, Section 5, efficient use of land, it states that the land use framework promotes approaches to reduce the amount of land that is taken up by permanent or long-term development by utilizing the minimum amount of land necessary. Section 4.1.23, subdivision residential of the Municipal Development Plan states that the county may support the subdivision of an existing farmstead or single vacant parcel if the following conditions are met. The parcel is redistricted to the appropriate country residential land use. The country residential parcel conforms to the applicable country residential regulation in the land use bylaw. The subdivision will not impact or hinder the agricultural use on the balance of the quarter section, and all parcels have direct access to the existing municipal road network or provincial highway. The Country Residential 2 district of the land use bylaw imposes a minimum parcel size of 5 acres and a maximum parcel size of 10 acres. And at the time of writing this report, no comments were received from any of the adjacent landowners. So that takes me to my recommendation, and I just want to note that in the written recommendation there was an error, so the recommendation should read approval, as the proposal complies with the agricultural strategy under the implementation of the plan of the South Saskatchewan Regional Plan and Section 4.1.23 Subdivision Residential of the Municipal Development Plan. And that is my report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you, Becky. Does anybody have any questions for the assistant planner at this time? Not seeing any? There's nobody here, so do I continue with the rest of this? There's nobody opposed to it?
You just make that comment that there is no one in the gallery
Okay.
to oppose.
Okay, there's nobody in the gallery to oppose anything today, so I will move to the end of the public hearing. The public hearing for 2022-22 is concluded and no further submissions will be accepted. That is it for the public hearing.
We let her off the hook.
Okay, 4.1, minutes. I do believe, yep. Michelle's moving the minutes. Everybody read them? Everybody's good with them? I'll ask for the vote. It's carried. 11:30, 6.1. Carolyn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before you on page 15 is bylaw 2022. The public hearing just concluded for land use amendment. The recommended motion is that council considers second and third reading of bylaw 2022.
Dustin? Dustin's moving second. Any questions at this point? Not seeing any. Vote? It's carried. Richard, moving third. Okay. Vote. Carried. 6.2, Carolyn?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bylaw 2022-16, land use amendment. The recommended motion that council move first reading of bylaw 2022-16. On page 17, there is background information. After first reading is complete, if council wishes to proceed, a public hearing will take place in the future.
Dustin? It's moving up. Any questions on it? Vote. It's carried. 6.3, Carolyn?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bylaw 2022-27, land use amendment. Recommended motion is that council moves first reading of the bylaw. It is on page 22, and the same as previously. This is first reading, so a public hearing will commence after first reading.
Okay, Lloyd's gonna move that one? You have any questions on it, Michelle? Or? Okay. Lloyd's moving that. Any questions? Vote. Carried. 7.1, Carolyn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On page 24 is the November operating update. Is there any questions of administration? Also, the recommended motion that council receive the November 2022 operating financial update for information.
Blaine? You're moving that one? Any questions on it? I went through it. It looked pretty good. Anybody have any questions?
Nope.
Not seeing any. I'll ask for the vote. Vote. Carried. 7.2, Carolyn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The November capital update on page 54. Recommended motion that council receive the November 22 capital budget update for information. It's on page 54 with information in regards to the capital purchase that have taken place.
Let Keith move. Keith, you want to move this one? Any questions on it? Not seeing any. Dustin, do you have them? See, you're looking closer. You're good? All right, I'll ask for the vote. Vote. It's carried. 7.3, Carolyn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The 2023 operating budget. At the previous council meeting, administration provided the draft budget for council's consideration. There has, on page 61, and to follow, there was some minor changes that were made to the document. And so the final document is here for your consideration, and Travis is going to go through just the changes that occurred, and we'll go from there. Does that sound all right?
Yep.
Perfect.
Travis?
Morning, Council. I don't have any Adele references today, so it might be a little drier, but,
I brushed up on mine.
all right, so we've got the final budget before you. So I just wanted to kind of give a bit of an overview before we got into it again, was as far as, I had some questions about kind of what's the financial responsibility around budget? Is there an audit around it? What happens with the budget afterwards? So ultimately, the budget is council's budget. There is no audit around a budget, just so you know, that the auditors, while they do put the budget into the financial statements, there's no actual formal audit procedure around a budget. The budget is truly council's budget for presentation, and the financial oversight of the budget is simply council's. When we get to the financial statements at the end of the year, those are on actual activity, so there's something to audit. But when we looked at a budget which is about future, there wouldn't actually be anything to audit, because nothing's occurred yet, right? Just our best guess of what the future looks like, what we want it to look like, and how we'll allocate funds. If we go just to the table of contents, the big changes are in red, so we've added for you now the capital budget, which was approved in November. They've all been built into into this full budget, so it's a one document. That's an all-encompassing, your operating budget plus capital budget, all in one document. So we've added the capital budget information, as well as 3 different appendixes to try and just offer a little bit more information for councillors and for others, glossary acronyms and some financial policies, just a summary of council's financial policies.
I got a quick question. So everything in red has been changed from the original presentation, correct?
Correct. Everything in red has
An
been
addition,
changed.
yeah, an addition. So it could be a change or an addition. Yeah.
So nothing too significant on the first kind of 10 pages or so. We're going to jump all the way through all of those. We'll go to page 12, which is the org chart. A little farther. There you go. And even 1 page farther, so no change on that side. Just for council's info here, later today you do have a motion enclosed that will just change a position title, so that's reflected here. And then there was 2 positions that were just swapped, just so you know. So no big changes here, but just so you know that those are in there. On to the next page, our budget preparation. So one thing I'll offer is that as there is no assurance provided over a budget, what the Government Finance Officers Association of North America has done is put out budgeting best practice. So some of the verbiage that you'll see added is items that they've recommended are included in a budget. So one of the ones was to talk about how members of the public are engaged in the public consultation process through a budget. So simply some verbiage here added around that. Nothing significant. Much of the verbiage we won't really discuss as we go, but much of the verbiage that's added is simply coming out of that government finance officer's best practice, things that we've now added. So if there's questions that come up as we go, feel free to jump in on them, but I probably won't talk a lot about the verbiage that's added. The first page with actual number changes is page 18 of the budget. Here, our budget summary. So again, this is just pulling together all the departments, all of your revenues, all the expenses, bring them into one nice clean page. Altogether, the only financial change that council made last meeting was to add 4 positions at the Walsh Visitor Center times the 16 weeks, up from what was 2.25 positions. So we've got altogether a change on net income of $24,000 is about the total change in dollar value here that we made from the original budget presentation. So not a significant change. You'll see many of the departments are in red, indicating that they've been tweaked a touch. When we talk about property taxes, there's a change in 2026. When we talk about planning and development, we have adjusted future years based on what we expect to come in for offsite levies and development permits in future years. Reserve transfers, we were able to increase a touch based on the conversation from the first meeting. So we'll go through those a little bit here as we go, but altogether, the total net income change was only about $24,000 from the first presentation.
That's unusual for us. Any questions on that? Go ahead.
All right. We'll just quickly go through kind of the rest and give you just a bit of a brief update on where things were at. When we go to the expense summary, which is page 20 of your budget. Here we are. So like we said, salaries and wages, that's what changed. It went up about $22,000. You'll notice on most of the pages it's actually in red. There was a bit of a benefit calculation change. So most of them changed by like $6, $7, $4. So they are in red still to identify that they changed. But the change was immaterial. The only one that had a material change was the Walsh Visitor Center by the addition of that 1 3/4 position. Some verbiage that we did add here, we talked about debt limits. We did talk about debt limits last time. So your debt limit is 1.5 times revenue. Your debt servicing limit, which is the amount of debt that you can cash flow in the year, is 25% of your expenses. So they are now added as to what they can be. 62 million is your total debt limit for 2023. We only have one debt currently. It's the loan that we took to finance the the Walsh water line. So there's about 6 million remaining on that. So it leaves you about 56 million in debt that you could take. Reiterating again from last meeting, we're not making the recommendation that council does take it, just to know you could. That's right. The only other expense change that we saw was just to highlight was the depreciation. So looking at 23's budget versus 26's budget, with the capital additions that council's approved, your annual operating budget is going to go up about $400,000 on depreciation alone. Nothing else on expenses. We'll go to the reserve fund summary, which is one more page. So I do want to highlight later in today's agenda, there is ADM 33 is coming back for council's review. That is your establishment of reserves policy. It does change a lot of the names and some of the descriptions of the policies. So if that ADM 33 is approved today, then we will update this page as well after the meeting, but only to align with what council approves based on that policy. Some of the other things I think to highlight is when we look at a financial statement, the financial statement will only ever show you operating reserves versus capital reserves. Here, this is the only time that council would actually see a full breakout of all of your reserves. So when you come to your financial statements in February, March, and April, it will only show operating versus capital. That's why the descriptions are broken out as they are. But at the budget, you get a presentation of all of your reserves. Like we said, we increased the contribution a little bit from the conversation last meeting, increased the contribution to the internet reserve, increased the contribution to the landfill reserve, and the vehicles and machinery reserve. When council approved the addition of the loader back to the capital policy, then the annual contribution had to change. So that's been updated as well now.
Already paid for it in there.
All good there? Making sense so far? Pretty minor tweaks. The next kind of big tweak is on page 26, which is property taxes or legislative. Keep going here. Here we go. So we mentioned that tax revenue is projected to change in 2026. So we're in year 3 of the 5-year plan. That means 24 and 25 are years 4 and 5. Bless you. So years 4 and 5. So that means the 5-year plan ends in 25. That 5-year plan would again see a 6% increase in farm for each of the next 2 years, 12.8 again in non-res and small business. But in 26, which is now would be year 1 of a new 5-year plan, administration has simply projected a 3.5% increase across the board, which is just to simply match to inflation at that time. Noting that that's 3 years into the future and will be reviewed each year ahead of time until then. But it's there for your consideration. No changes on the corporate services finance page, the ones there. Again, those numbers, you're seeing the salaries numbers again in red. They changed $4. So like I say, just a benefit calculation that we updated. On the assessment page, just some verbiage added to talk about the total number of parcels and the total assessed value. So we're looking at taxable properties at about 4.8 billion. Again, the budget is projected based on the assumption that assessment remains simply consistent over all of your budget years. So it doesn't take into account potential government or other levels of government policy changes that could occur. So what could be up or downside risk, and it doesn't take into account further development that we're expecting in the county. It simply assumes that assessable taxable property will maintain and be current over all 4 years. Just so you know. Page 36 is our next one with changes on it. That's health and safety and the bylaw pages. We'll keep going just a little farther. There we go. All right, so page 36 is health and safety. So again, just some verbiage here to add a little bit more to the health and safety story. I do want to add that many of you have probably noted there is a physical inventory control now, a physical fence that controls inventory. Our interim audit is this week, so KPMG is on site actually this week, and they were very happy to see that physical barrier added around inventory control. So. Page 37 talks about bylaw. We've added now the per resident rate or cost each year as this levy increases to the county from the province. So it does show just for more information. Planning and development is the next one with changes, page 40. So we talked about at the last meeting was that 24, 25, and 26 projected revenue likely wasn't consistent with 22 and 23. We know we've seen high development in renewable energy, may or may not continue into future years. So a lot of that revenue has already been recognized. So we didn't want the future years to simply assume that will continue. It may continue, but we've adjusted them back to their 2020 and 2021 rates.
Hey, Dustin has a question.
Something I just noticed we should take out under the 2022 or 23 significant variances. That $40,000 for that Cavan Lake revitalization study should probably come off of there on page 41. Second last bullet.
Yeah, noted. Thank you.
Good catch, sir, Dustin. He's not just a pretty face here.
So just so you know too, that will actually reduce contract services by 40,000. So the bullet point will remove and the 40,000 will remove from the budget. So we'll make that change. Thank you.
He's down low.
Okay. Next one is page 46, which is your tourism and economic development budget. Again, that's the one for that includes the Walsh Visitor Center. So that one salaries have increased about $22,000 from the previous meeting to include your additional staff. We've also included in the significant variances the point this budget includes your $10,000 contribution to the city for the Medicine Hat Regional Community Designation Partnership that was approved at the November 1 meeting. That was for recruiting foreign workers. So that's built into this budget as well.
Blaine?
I just not, without being picky, I just noticed one thing. It said it's open till May to September in the bottom there, and then up here we got operations from May to August, so we should clarify whether it's May to August or May to September. Yeah, that's why I figured it was September long, so. In red there, you could probably change that.
Thank you very much. Consider it updated. We will make the change. All right. don't think there's many other changes. We'll go to page 54, which is Consolidated Public Works. I think just to put in perspective, I want to talk about, like we say, a lot of the salaries are in red. The total effect on all of Public Works from the benefit calculation update was $78 between all of the Public Works departments. So I didn't talk about all of them, but like I say, many of them are about $4 to $8 was the total change. So $78 in all of Public Works from the benefit calculation change. No other significant changes in Public Works. And really no other significant changes through the remainder of the budget. The other key parts, I think, just for your review, and I won't plan to go into them, but if you guys would like to, we can, is just noting that from page 64 on is now added. So those are your capital budget pages. Those are the ones we approved in November, along with the glossary, the acronyms, and financial policies. So I won't go through those in detail because council's already approved those, seen them twice in November. Certainly we can discuss them if you like, but simply brought forward from what was approved previously.
Any questions or comments on the budget? Blaine?
I think the best thing about the whole document is the page 80, the acronyms, and maybe I can figure them out then.
Municipal government, we're terrible because we got lots. And that encompasses quite a few, but there's, we talk in acronyms like, it's terrible. It's just, I think every industry has their type of acronyms, but municipal government's bad for that. Very bad.
I know when we're in conversations about stuff, I'm always looking at her like, what are you talking about? I don't know.
Yeah. So, Mr. Chairman, so the next steps would be if council is good with the amendments to the document and with the other ones that were suggested today, administration would like to recommend that council's consideration to approve the 2023, can't believe it's almost 2023 operating budget for commencement January 1st.
Well, we kind of need it, otherwise we can't operate January 1st, so it looked pretty good. Does somebody want to move it with the amendments brought up today? Blaine? Any questions or comments on it? Not seeing any? Vote. That's carried. Thank you, Travis. CAO report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It is on page 146. One thing I'd like to add that I really recommend that everybody visits the root cellar. It is amazingly inspiring, everything that they're doing there. What they do out of that building is, and with the limited space they have, from teaching people how to cook, teaching people how to look after themselves, getting them the right resources. It is just amazing. And I think that we're very blessed to have something like that in our community to help out our folks. But I really recommend going there. It's pretty inspiring. Any other questions?
I'm just going to add to that because I was one of the ones at the root cellar, and boy, it sure opened our eyes on what I was going to bring it up in my report, so I'm just might as well bounce off of this now. Some of the things they do in there that takes away stress from other associations. There are 48 other associations that they help, like the women's shelter and places like that. So they're taking off the stress of the food and somebody eating, so that those other nonprofits can focus on what they're there to focus for, whether it's help or whatever it may be. But yeah, it was pretty I know everybody was busy. It would have been good to have the whole council there because it was a very good tour. But that's all I got to add to that. But I'm sure Michelle and Richard will add to it in theirs. And we need to put the barrier back up always around Shane because he's causing problems in council. Does anybody have anything about Tara Lynn's report? Shane, of course.
Please tell me we're still not crushing gravel up at Stony Hill.
Well, it's been the longest, probably gravel crushing season that I've seen ever. I believe that
Kim's got his head.
that it's. Would you like to just provide further details on that?
Yeah, thank you through the chair. So we've talked to the owner a couple times. We've met him on site. He's had some staffing issues, but we've addressed our concerns, and we've offered to let them. They haven't fulfilled their contract as of this point, and then the owner said he hasn't walked away from a contract yet, and he would like to fulfill it. So he's about 8,000 yards short. So hopefully, if everything works out, by the end of this week.
It happens this day and age.
I know, but it also adds up to our time and our staff going out there and checking and quality control and everything else. It's ongoing and ongoing that becomes an issue.
Yeah, through the chair. So they pay for the QNC testing. So that's something that they've endured. Now they're doing a lot more testing now because we're now requiring it every 3 or 4 days. So yeah, they're enduring all those extra costs.
Good. That was going to be my question. Any other questions? Not seeing any since Shane's moving the report.
You betcha.
Vote. Carried. Reeve and Counselor's report. Yeah, for mine, I wanted to add to that root cellar thing, but I just did, so other than that, it's all there in my report. We'll start with Blaine.
Okay, November 23rd, we had an ASB meeting. We had a fellow come in by the name of Aaron Brower, give us a little more information on the municipal tax pilot project that their Land Stewardship Center is proposing in the south area, all the way from basically Cardston to here. And we're still planning on having a meeting with the head guy, Brian Illenicki, to try to find out a little bit more information from him. So we're still working on that. Went to the Premier's announcement of the Highway 3 twinning. Had a Cypress County Library meeting on the 29th. Reviewed and finalized the budget and went over some the new drawings for the urban library. And that's about it for me.
Dustin?
Same thing, ASB on the 23rd. We awarded 2 bursaries to 2 individuals within the county. Also, something to note out there, we did forward on a letter about the vet shortage within the province. I have to look who it went to again because I can't remember off the top of my head. Yeah, it went to Nate Horner, but it went to someone else too. Yeah, Nate Horner, then our local MLAs, and then the Minister of Advanced Education. And then on the 24th, there was a SMRD meeting. So what they ended up doing is they kind of split it in their allotments that they were talking about putting out. They split it into different parcel categories. So what they propose right now is they're opening up 10,000 extra acres. They're limiting it to 130 acres per title holder, essentially. And that's across all 4 zones. It got put to a plebiscite vote on December 28th, and I just seen yesterday that it passed. So those acres are going to be coming up for availability next year. Something else to note too is they do have some set aside off kind of the ordinary irrigating stuff for municipalities and whatnot if they're looking for water to take and do projects like in Dunmore here to do raw water sort of thing. They do have things like that available that we can apply for. I attended the Highway 320 announcement on the 25th where the Premier spoke. And then on the 28th, I attended the 1122 Seed Plant AGM. And then on December 4th, I attended the 7-person's craft sale. where I got my picture taken with Santa Claus.
Shane?
Yeah, had the Ag Service Board meeting on the 23rd. Dustin hit it all. There, attended the Premier's announcement for Highway 320. Had a regional landfill meeting last week. And then something, well, it's not county related, but it's really important to me. On Saturday, up at Brooks, we had a little fundraiser for my grandson. We donated a heifer, and then we, my old owner, my old boss and part owner of South Rock, Mick Nodwell, donated some Flames tickets. And what we're doing, we're trying to raise some money for an infusion machine for the pediatric part of the Brooks emergency ward. So we're hoping to raise $10,000, and this heifer that that we donated was sort of a sister. Justin had bought, that's my son, bought some black cows and bought a Hereford bull off of Blaine and was raising some black white-faced calves, and one of them ended up being a orphan, and we called her Emma. So there was a picture of Eric reaching through the fence and Emma reaching through the fence to try to pet each other. And so that went really well. We were hoping to raise $10,000. By the time we left the auction market that night, we were at $32,000 already. And a lady that ended up buying the heifer, they own a feedlot and ranch up by Bazzano, came up and said they were going to donate the calf from that heifer every year back to Eric's fund to go to pediatric stuff at the Brooks Emergency Ward. So it's went over very, very, very well. Okay, that's it.
Thanks for sharing that with us, Shane. That's pretty impressive.
On Wednesday, November 23rd, it was my turn to participate in the subdivision and appeal board hearing. And then next day on Thursday, using Zoom, I participated in a Milk River Watershed Council meeting. Friday, I also did the Highway 3 funding announcement. And next week on the Monday, I attended the Desert Bloom Homeowners Association meeting. No major issues. There is a park there that's not draining properly, but Kim is working on a plan to fix that next spring or summer. The next day, I toured the root cellar with Michelle, Terrelyn, and Dan, and Sean was there to take pictures. And yeah, it's unbelievable how much is going on down there. You think it's just a simple kind of a food bank thing, and it's nothing like that. And the lady that's running it, she's got a fantastic handle on things. How much they do is unbelievable, and the volunteers that were coming and going down there is pretty impressive. The bag lunches, it is something else. Tuesday night, like Blaine said, we had a Cypress Library Board meeting, and then the next day in the afternoon, I attended that YMCA stakeholder engagement meeting with Terrelyn and Dan. Karen Blewett was looking for ideas from Cypress County on program direction. Then Thursday morning, I sat with Terrelyn, Kim, John, Rodham, and myself. We discussed the Irvin Resource Center. John is being our go-to guy for making this project move forward, and that's it.
Thank you.
Pretty short. Yeah, it was better than you thought.
He lost his other page. Lloyd.
Well, mine was pretty short. Besides attending the regular meetings, went to the introduction of the twinning of the highway. Went to Elkwater Community Association meeting. Had coffee there. It was good. They're really concerned about the 41. Is their big concern now. And I went with Shane to Red Cliff. Enjoy the meeting with him, which he'll explain. In construction.
Michelle?
I actually had a pretty slow couple of weeks, which was lovely. I attended the highway 3 twinning thing with Danielle with everybody else. I also went to the root cellar, and the thing that I got out of it was that Cypress County, over the years that we've been doing this, has donated over $300,000 to the food bank, and it all goes to the brown bag lunches. So kids always have food. So I thought that was just amazing, and it was it was just a great tour. If you've never been there, go. I had a policy meeting yesterday with Cypress View, and I think that was it. I didn't really do much. Made cookies.
Keith?
I don't really have anything to report. I was busy, but I actually didn't do anything with the county side. I guess we got a meeting on Friday in Bizano, so I'll get a taste of something different than this. I'd just like to take this opportunity, while I have your attention, to invite you to my fireworks show on December 30th, Friday night. I do a fireworks thing, and I do a potluck, what I call a potluck hot dog roast from 4 to 7, and 7 o'clock is fireworks, and you can come and do a drive-by, you can come and cook yourself supper, you can, if the weather's nice, we'll hook up a hayride. So that's what I try to do that between Christmas and New Year's every year. This will be my 3rd year that I've done it. And I've done fireworks for 30 years, so I think I have a pretty good little show.
Is that your place?
Yeah, right at my place. I actually go just north of my yard, out into the field, and I set up panels and calf shelter, and everything's out in the field. And it's just, it's dark and it's cold, but it's a lot of fun.
Did you hear them? You got a permit for that?
If I did, I ignored it. So, anyway, if you're not doing anything or bored of the house, you're more than welcome to come out and socialize with the neighbors and whoever else I might get invited by then. So,
And that's on the
Not-
30th?
what's that?
That was on the 30th?
That's on the 30th, Friday night. Yeah.
Dustin?
One thing to add too that I forgot, December 18th at 4:30 is the 7-person candy cane run. So we decorate up the fire trucks and do a tour around the town and collect donations for the food bank as well there. So if you're interested, that's the day that is. What was that day? December 18th, so that's next Sunday
What time?
at 4:30. So, yeah, so the best place if you're coming to watch or would be just either the school parking lot or the hall parking lot.
Right. Okay. Good information from everybody. Does anybody have any more comments? Not seeing any. Somebody want to move the reports? Keith is going to move the reports. Vote. Carried. All right, we're good to go still. 10.1, Tarlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Perk and Dirk. So for those that are not, so here's these acronyms again. Here we go. We're famous for them. So the province has a program that where if there is outstanding oil and gas school requisitions, we can apply to get those refunded to us. And so that is what this is. So PERC is for the provincial education requisition credit, and then the DIRC is the designated industrial requisition credit. In the past, we've had to write it out, do a journal entry, and actually remove it from the books. Now they've changed it. We just need a motion of council. So so before you is on page 153 is the information in regards to the request, and the recommended motion is council direct administration to complete the PERC and DIRC application in the set amounts for the properties listed on the attached Schedule A for 2022.
Okay, thank you, Tarlin. Lloyd's going to move that. Pretty self-explanatory. We do it every year. Any questions on it, though?
If you can get a hold of that alpha blow, let me know. Alpha Bow. I see they're in the rears with me too.
Okay, no comments? Vote. Carried. 10.2, Carolyn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. IFRAC's access to RCMP encrypted channels implementation. The recommended motion that Council direct administration submit a letter to the Minister of Public Safety and Emergency Services stating that IFRAC's in the province-owned radio communication system and that no fee should be paid for Alberta agencies to use the IFRAC's to communicate with the RCMP. On page 160 is the beginning of the information in regards to it, the background. There's substantial information. Do you have any questions?
No, it's just questions. You gonna move it, or? Okay, Dustin's moving it. So the government should be paying for it. We pay enough for their stuff. Any questions on it?
We don't have, do we have it right now?
No. No, we never have.
So back in the legacy days of UHF, we used to have communications with the RCMP, and ever since they moved over to AFRAX, and we have AFRAX ability, they could very well give us the frequencies to their channels, but they have not, and are refusing to. I'm not sure what else I can say on that, but that's about the gist of it.
Yep. Any other questions? We have a motion on the floor to send that letter in for them to pay for it. Richard? Oh,
Will there be other municipalities putting their letters into? Like, will this be kind of maybe almost province-wise?
So my understanding is that the Community Peace Officer Association and their members and other municipalities have great concern with how the province is proceeding with this and with the RCMP as well.
Okay,
So it just won't be us. So we can CC the letter to through the Community Peace Officers Association, and then we can also we could send it through Army.
okay. I see the chair is here, so she would lead the charge then?
Leading.
leading it. Jane, you had something? Oh, Michelle?
Is this, are we the first ones doing this? Or is there somebody else out there, municipalities, or writing letters?
Correspondence yet? Sure. There has, so there, to my knowledge, there's not been none circulated yet to other municipalities at this time.
So we got notification of this on November 16th from the Peace Officer Program Manager. And as soon as we got kind of the figures that I've given before you, I reached out to other municipalities. They're all in the same boat. They're not happy about it. So then I met with Tara Lynn to discuss what's our options moving forward with this. And that's where we decided to do the request for decision in a letter. And then I've offered it out afterwards, after if we do approve, you guys do approve a letter, then other municipalities will be basically using our letter as a template. Because yes, we're not the only ones. I think we're probably the first one because we're getting it through right away kind of thing, but it was a matter of timing in this case.
Thank you. That was my question. I was just curious if we were being the leaders in this, or if somebody else had, and we're just following, but thanks.
We usually are the ones that start the charge on stuff.
Suckers for punishment.
Yeah. But, oh, everybody knows what the motion is? Good? Vote. Carried. 10.2.1. What the heck? What's all these points in here?
I know, confusing. 10.2.1, policy ADM 33, the establishment of reserves. So, Mr. Chairman and Council, the recommended motion that Council approve policy ADM 33, establishment of reserves as presented. Travis had previously talked about it with the presentation of the 2023 operating budget. So if Council approves the amended policy, then that will be reflected in the budget document. And so the changes are in red, and they start on page 167.
Jane, you got your hand up? Yeah. Okay. Any questions on it?
No, I just want to make a comment to the rest of council that I'm really nice to see that we're looking down the road and to the future of putting these reserve funds in place for everything in, like gravel and equipment. We're looking down the road, we're not looking behind us, we're looking down, looking ahead.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, I think Cypress County was trying before. It's just getting a lot better on where it's all looking. But
No, it took a lot to get Richard. Yeah. It's been a long battle.
no, okay, everybody's good with the motion? Any other questions or comments? Not seeing any? Vote. Carried. 10.3, Carolyn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Agricultural rental equipment fees. Some time ago, Council asked for administration to bring back some information on the ASB rental equipment, and the master rates bylaw will be coming to Council the first meeting in January. And so, as per the motion, this is in preparation for the master rates bylaw that will be presented in the future. It's on page 171, and the recommended motion that Council direct administration to incorporate all the changes as discussed into the 2023 master rates bylaw.
Okay, thank you. Richard?
I'll make that motion that we direct administration to incorporate all changes as discussed.
Okay. Any questions or comments on it? Blaine?
I guess I have a question. I don't know, maybe this is for us at ASB, but I guess we should probably talk about having two of these land rollers. And I see they've both been kind of used equally, but maybe the one is the only we really need.
Richard?
Yeah, I looked at that too, and I played with those numbers, and I just figured that land roller's not going to bring us much for money anyway. So we could run it, and once it's worn out or it gets damaged, then we just junk it, just dispose of it. But right now, there's people that will take the cheaper one because they don't need the bar on it. So, but
Looks like it's easier to move the new one than it is the old one. But yeah.
It's way easier to move in. Word hasn't really got out. A lot of people don't know about that we have that roller with that blade on to knock down the gopher holes. But now that we can't use strychnine and the gopher problem's becoming more and more, it may start being used more. But there's a lot of people, tax ratepayers that didn't realize we had that.
Works excellent on pivot tracks too.
Yep.
So here's a question then. Do we put it in that we just leave it the way it is right now, but if that other one gets wrecked, no money's to be spent on it unless it comes back to council on decision? Dustin?
I think that's fine, and I think there'd still be a fair amount of, if a guy were to sell it, it's worth quite a bit still, because they're a fairly desirable thing for guys with grassland to use. So, yeah, if it went to auction, it would bring fair money, but I think at the time, it's not costing us a bunch to own it. We may as well keep it around.
Okay. I got Jeffrey and then Kim.
Thank you. Just for council's information, one of the renters of the older Land Roller, the 1994 unit, actually inflicted some damage on the Land Roller and took it upon himself to make the repairs rather than the county enforce him to undergo the repairs.
Anyway, the short story is that the repairs were quite successful, and in fact, it probably beefed up the Land Roller quite considerably, and probably has extended the life of the 1994 Land Roller. So it probably, and of course, our fleet maintenance department did look at the repairs that were completed. So just for information, I guess.
Kim and then Steve.
Yeah, mine was just to add on that. We reviewed the rams and I think we replaced a few hoses too. So we went right through that Land Roller. Was it last year or a year before? 2 years ago. So it's in good working order.
Okay. Steve?
So in terms of, just to help understand, if somebody does those substantive repairs, or damage rather, there is a pre-trip that Ag has implemented, and if there is significant damage, then that person's on the hook to make those repairs, and that was a motion of council previously. So if it does come back, it might be that they're on the hook, so we might not see that quick decline of that unit not to replace it. But one thing we could offer is in our fleet replacement plan is that we wouldn't fund its replacement, fund the depreciation of it. That could be, and just let it wear out.
Well, that makes sense. I think we're all on the same page that we just want one, so. Yep. Yep. Are we good with that motion then, or?
What motion?
Who had it? Michelle? Richard made the motion. Yeah. Go ahead, Michelle.
I just wanted to say that I like the fact that there's a small increase. For as much trouble as we went through when we raised them to begin with, now to see that it's increasing on its own, I like that.
So Richard made the motion to accept this the way it is, but did you want to add on that we don't do anything with the second one, or?
I really think we can just carry on till next year, and then we'll take a look at it, how much use it got, if it got any more damage, and we'll do something next year with it. But right now, or next fall, we're good right now.
I do like the idea that they're doing that paperwork on it now, so it doesn't come out of our pocket. Okay, any other questions on it? Vote. Carried. 10.4, Charlene?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Property tax recovery, it's on page 177. It's a two-part motion. One, the council moved to set the terms and conditions of the 2023 property tax recovery auction as follows. The sale is complete upon payment of via cash, certified check, or bank draft. Payment in full must be received within 21 days of the date of the auction. And second motion, the council moved to set the reserve bids for the 2023 property tax recovery auction as for the table included, which will form part of these minutes.
Okay, Michelle's making the first motion. Any questions? Not seeing any. Oh, go ahead, Richard.
Did I read it right that all these properties, like they haven't been paid for 3 years?
That's correct, if they're on the tax recovery.
Okay. Yeah, so we're not rushing on it. We're letting them have lots of time to do it. Okay.
Yeah, and they're notified, so when tax arrears happens, on your title, there's a tax arrears notification.
Okay.
So the titled owner and the bank, if the bank has a loan on it or mortgage, then they're notified. So that happens. So it's a significant process.
Okay, thank you.
It's not like the first year you miss it, you're in trouble.
I just
No.
wanted to make sure.
We have to do it every year.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that we do our level best. We always, like in the past couple of years, like we have the list and we communicate with them because we don't want to kick someone out of their home. We don't want to sell their land. That is not what we're here for. And so the past couple of years, the finance team really encourages, and we will do anything. We will go do a payment plan. Once you get caught up, let's do tip. Like, there are so many things that we can do to help alleviate it. We just need them to communicate with us.
Lane?
I was just curious to know if, along with what Richard asked there, if any of these ratepayers have expressed, issues and reasons why they couldn't, I guess.
we
There's
don't
always
get
a,
in.
there's always a reason.
Oh, I understand.
And
but-
sometimes it's personal and sometimes just circumstances haven't worked out. Sometimes it's individuals that are, every 3 years we see them.
So basically, you're saying nobody's reached out for help?
Not, and so administratively, we can enter into agreements with them, so. I don't think the past couple of years we've even had a tax auction, past 2 years.
Somebody's been paid off already, I understand.
Pardon?
Like, I know somebody's been paid off already, have they not?
If that's the current listing.
It's the one I reached out to myself.
Your mic's not on.
Because the one I reached out to on Monday, I seen, because I know him personally, and I said, hey, you deal with this, and they said, it's dealt with already. We phoned on Monday to even check, and they said it's dealt with.
Okay, well, we will, offline, if you could share which one that is, that would be helpful. Totally.
Yeah, no, there's lots that goes on behind the scenes before it gets to this point, so we're just not jumping out to. Okay, any other questions on it? Vote? Carried. Somebody want to make the second part? Lloyd? Second part of the motion for the auction. Any questions on it? Vote. Carried. 10.5, Carolyn?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Over the past couple of years, there's been a discussion about extending the walking path from Dunmore into the city of Medicine Hat. And so we need to start working on that project. And administration would like to recommend that there's been no formal motion of council to begin that project. So we're asking for your consideration if you would like to proceed with that project, that council allocates $10,000 from the 2022 Public Works operating budget to procure a conceptual drawing of the pedestrian walkway from Dunmore to the city of Medicine Hat for grant applying purposes. Because we can't apply for any grants right now because we don't have any conceptual or an estimate for a budget.
Richard?
I'll make that motion, and then just to add a little bit to it, when we were looking for grants for the library in Irvine, we came across the announcement that and this was back in March of 2022, that Government of Canada announces federal funding for cycling paths and trails across the country. So there is a good chance that we could find some money, or maybe there'll be another one down the road. At least we would be prepared for it then, so.
Any questions, comments? Wayne?
Is there an actual need for a highway from Dunmore to Medicine Hat?
Highway.
A walking path?
The highway or
Yeah.
the trail?
No, well,
Paved highway.
a paved highway?
Go ahead, Richard.
Yeah, we get asked about it. People from Dunmore would like to cycle back and forth, and I know we have a staff member that tried it one time and just was on the other side, not where this path is showing, but actually came out of Taylor Wild area and then cut across the old golf course that was there along the highway, across the tracks, and then came to the office. So there's some potential there, and I think it would be just like the other trail. Once it's there, people will use it.
Yeah, I get lots of people asking for it. Jeffrey?
Of course.
Yeah, thank you. As part of the original intermunicipal development plan, it was proposed at that time, or discussed with, that there would be a linking of a trail system between Redcliffe, the city, and Dunmore. And so this would help, I guess, fulfill that, proposal from back in 2008. So.
This would actually be the last step. It would be linked all the way from Eagle Ridge all the way to Redcliffe, if it was. Shane?
Yeah, at first I thought this, oh God, really? But then I didn't realize how much them trails are really used. Even the one from Medicine Hat to Redcliffe. It's amazing the amount of people in that. there, and they're biking more and more. Even that one that we did from Desert Bloom along the South Boundary Road to Medicine Hat. I mean, it's busy. But if we can get some funding, yeah.
Blaine?
Well, I'm not super in favor of this, I'll tell you that right now. But if it keeps them off the 120, I'll maybe go along with it. I haven't decided yet.
We had to have a leeway eventually, didn't we? I remember when we first put the path in out here, Lee Ray said, nobody will ever use that thing, it's a waste of money, and it's busy all the time now. Yeah.
Well, I do have a family of exercisers that go to cycling and all this other, I better be careful, things that would probably use it as well.
Okay, any other questions or comments on it? Not seeing any? Oh, sorry, Michelle.
So the $10,000 that we need for this drawing, does that, like, if it does go get a grant, do we get any of that back, or is that just going to sit there forever?
Sometimes that depends on the grant you apply for, that it is eligible to use those costs. So it depends on the grant for sure. It's a possibility.
But if we don't spend it, then we don't get a grant at all.
And those walking trails, everybody I know.
Yeah, they're highly used.
Richard?
So should I amend my motion so that to look at options for a pedestrian walking path? Because the drawing just shows it being on, I call it the west side of the highway, yet there is an option, or maybe could be an option, on the east side of the highway past the new, there's an auction sale building there past Myers, and then
Across country there.
cross country, yeah. Could
So
we get them to?
yeah, so there'll be other options. This is just one that was thought of.
Okay, but they will
It's
look
not
at
limited
more than
to-
one option though?
Yeah, that'd be the process.
We're the same to the $10,000, or will we have to give them another $10,000?
No, it's a conceptual idea of looking at the orthophotography, looking at because there's the highways is a major, not issue, but you got the number one highway running through there. You've got a busy rail system. You've got the trestle structures. Like there's a lot of things that are water lines. Yeah, there's a lot of infrastructure along there, so it'll have to be out of the box thinking. And what we want to is with the recreation master plan that was done a couple of years ago, walking paths was identified as one of that, and curling and pickleball, I believe, were the top threes for adult recreation. When we did that, those were the top three, was walking paths, curling was identified, and pickleball was one that was identified as that people would like to see in the future. And so this fits well in there. And also too, we'll be looking at structures that are lower maintenance, because we don't want to build something that has to like majorly engineered, and we'll be spending a lot of money in the future.
Every year or every month. Jeffrey? You keep your.
Thank you. Yeah, not to disregard the conceptual layout of the proposed trail system, but I guess just to tack on to my earlier comment with the IDP history was that whether it ever came to fruition or not, but a possibility as another option was, at that time, was considering running the trail along the Bull's Head Creek, because there was a environmental, or sort of a environmental setback from the creek to preserve it for wildlife habitat, as well as to because it's part of the floodplain. And so the gravel extraction that would be basically taking place on the east and I guess now the west side of that creek has to maintain a setback distance from that Bull's Head Creek. So there was thought, but like I say, back in 2008, that if there ever was an interlinking trail system between Dunmore and the city, that corridor of that creek bed could be a possibility as well. So, although this is another, the proposed alignment works as well. So,
Jane?
Hate to tell you, Jeff, but that'd be an environmental nightmare to try, because that's or wildlife habitat and everything else there to build a pathway through there along the creek. I think we
And this is.
move the highway.
And this is to be able to apply for grants. This isn't saying that we're doing it. It's that we're applying for grants, and the first thing they want is a budget, and they want a conceptual idea. And this is to get the ball rolling, and was something that was looked at 15 years ago.
Here, you got 10 seconds.
I just want to bring it to council and mostly administration's attention, though, that Dan and I have talked to some people about this trail, and we have talked to the owner of that golf course that is shut down now. His name is Chris Parrott, and he was interested. And I was going to keep Ingrid out of this, but I know she rode this, with her son, she rode from the Taylor Wild area to the office here, so there is a possibility. They're crossing the train tracks, right? That was the challenge. Got to put your mic on.
Yeah, that was the only challenge. We ended up coming from the back of Taylor down into that campground area, up that little road, and then we took that side trail. It's like a grassy area that's at the bottom of the overpass, and that's kind of like a little bit of a dirt road, I think, where the CPR trucks end up traveling for maintenance, and just cut across the tracks there, and then we were right by the auction place and just down here to the county office. So it was a great ride, but it would be great to have more of a trail there.
Jane?
I know what you're talking about, Rich, but you'd want to keep it on the other side. You don't want all the people from Dunmore crossing the highway.
Yeah, we'll wait and see what they come back at, right?
Oh, I see your point.
Yeah. We can't decide it today, so we'll let them put it together.
And it's just to start the process, council. That's what this is, just to start it, if you want to do it, if you want the process started.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to start the process on this. We got the balcony group going here.
Sorry.
Vote. Are you for it? Okay. That's carried. For now.
Oh, yeah. Opposition.
Yeah, you don't want that nickname. 11.1, Terlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The 2022 vehicle disposal to the regional landfill. It's on page 192, and the recommended motion is to approve the 2022 disposal of unit U72032 directly to the regional landfill for the price of $15,000 plus GST. And there is information to follow on page 193.
Okay, Dustin? Dustin moves it. Any questions or comments? Vote. Carried. All right, we gotta go in closed. We will take it.
Maybe.
Jeffrey?
Okay, thank you. Able to get his crew out in 2022 here. So I'll let Colton talk just briefly about the two videos that were produced, and then we'll show the first video and the second video. And but go ahead, Colton, just hit the button there.
Perfect. Good morning, Council. Thank you so much for having me. Jeffrey explained a lot about what we're going to be talking about today, but yeah, we focused on 10 to 15 different major events, businesses in all different sectors of tourism, whether that be accommodations, music festivals, our rodeo scene that we have here in Cypress County, and some other events that even I, as a constituent of Medicine Hat, didn't even know existed in Cypress County. So I was glad that we're able to showcase this and hopefully bring that into a different market for everyone to see. The businesses that we did have were very, very excited to see Cypress County taking on tourism with another video, and they were just very thankful to see that, hopefully bring more business here. Obviously, coming out of COVID, things are changing, but they were very excited to see where it was. But we focused on many different industries, and we just tried to recap a whole fun activity that you can come down for a good weekend in the summer or winter. We focused on, we started filming in February of 2022 and we wrapped up in October. It was a very long process with 20 plus days of shooting, and we tried to focus and cover everything, but I think we'll watch the video, and if you have any questions, I'd love to be able to answer them for you.
Yeah, and I guess my last comment would be, before we see the video, is this will be the premiere of it. Other than Colton and myself, we're the only ones that have seen the video. And I'm very pleased to say that Colton and his production company kept it under budget. So with that being said.
Nice. That's good.
Very good.
We have a shorter version of it too, so.
There's a lot going on in 2 minutes there.
Yeah.
I guess those 71.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that too.
71.
South of Folsom Road.
Technical difficulties. Don't pressure the girl.
Blaine and I want everyone to know that Shane burnt those pancakes and it wasn't us. It was Shane. I want that clarified. We're going to a PEP meeting on Friday, so we can take something like this with. Okay.
You didn't burn the pancakes in that one, Shane.
Nope.
That's really good.
Yep, that was excellent job.
Yeah, like I said, it would be nice to include a lot more, but it's just, there's just so much that to try and compress it into a small area. So we tried to cover everything, in terms of, showing events, showing attractions, and showing some of the, entertainment and some of the activities, and showcasing as much as we possibly could, to try and hit, things from accommodations to camping to all those other things as well. So I think Colton and his team did a fantastic job, and and again, Colton is great to work with, so gives us good value for what we pay for. So anyway, with that being said, yeah, it's ready to basically deploy and put into use. So
Excellent.
Good job.
Excellent job. Anybody have any comments or questions? Fantastic job, I mean.
Very professional.
So I guess, Mr. Chairman, all we would like is a motion to accept the tourism video as presented.
Dustin? All right, any questions on it?
I want my burnt pancakes.
I think that's number one on there. Vote. Carried. It's accepted. Thank you very much, Colton. You have a Merry Christmas. So is that going to be looped and running continuously at the visitor center out there then on a TV? Oops.
You go to a conference and, you could say we have the economic development and the tourism video that can be utilized. That's what the purpose of it is for that.
That gets me out of a bunch of speeches at the chambers and stuff.
Well, it did work well though, when that video for the economic development, and there was, it's an excellent way to present and to supplement as well. Like it works really well.
Yep. Dustin?
I remember being at an RMA conference one time and they showed some of them economic development videos during the breaks, so it might be something to send to them as well.
Yep. Yeah, we can get it on there.
Those things with the big cheesies and whatever, so.
Yeah, they retain something.
Yeah. You woke up for that second up there. All right, can I get a motion to go in camera, please? Sure. Blaine? I had to wake him up over there. He looked a little drowsy. So vote.
We'll just wait a second before we.
Carried. All right, let's bang this off so we can go for lunch. 12.1, Dustin's making that motion. Well, we agreed that it was as what was written.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that one's for the finance.
Yeah. Okay, any questions? Vote. Carried. 12.1.1, I don't know whatever happened to 12.2 and 3 after that.
She's trying to confuse us. It appears it's easy for us.
Dustin's making that one too. Everybody is good with it? Vote. 12.2,
To bring back the policy to look at capital campaigning.
12.2, Michelle is making that. Yep, vote. Carried. 12.3,
So, Mr. Chairman, this will be to retain Colliers to do the RFP for the library, and then a separate one for the multi-purpose, multi-use.
you want that one, Blaine?
Sure, I'll take it.
All right. Vote. Carried. And 12.4 will just receive his information. And Lloyd's making that one. There you go, you got the main one. Vote. Carried. All right, everybody, that's the last meeting for 2022. Yeah. Did I miss something?